Welcome back to the Iron and Intention podcast, where strength meets purpose. I'm your host, Tommy, and today we're digging into something every cop and first responder understands in their bones. Your job, it demands performance whether you feel like it or not. Here's the truth. The badge doesn't just test your courage. It tests your energy, your recovery, your discipline, and your identity outside the uniform. And if you're trying to get back in shape alone, between shift work, stress, poor sleep, and the constant pull of life, it can feel like you're always starting over. So today's episode is about building fitness that actually holds up in the real world. That kind of fitness that supports your career, protects your body, and helps you go home with something left for the people who matter most. And I'm fired up because my guest today, he's not speaking from theory. This guy's living it. Today, I'm joined by Coach Justin, who's a 12-year law enforcement officer, a 10-year personal trainer. He launched Blue Line Fitness in May of 2021 with one clear mission, and that's to help cops get fit and to live a life they love outside the badge. Justin is a husband and a proud dad of 2 boys. Wow, a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old. Man, you got your hands full. So Justin understands exactly what it means to balance family life, fatigue, and real-world pressure while still building strength and staying consistent. And if you're a cop or first responder who's tired of trying to get in shape alone, Justin runs a free private community called the FITCOP Squad Room, completely outside of social media. No algorithms, no influencers, just a brotherhood, cops supporting cops with access to free workout programs, nutrition guides built specifically for law enforcement. Justin, welcome to the Iron and Intention podcast, man. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm fired up, man. You invited me on, and it seemed like it would just be we'd fit like a glove. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna jump right into it because I think that you have a lot of good content out there, and you have a passion to help cops get fit. So let's jump right into it, man. What are the biggest fitness mistakes that you see cops making when they're trying to get back in shape?
Well, the biggest mistakes is I feel like they're just waiting for the perfect time. They are trying to do too much and just not staying consistent with it. Like, one, I mean, most of my listeners are probably cops and dads and husbands, and you have a lot on your plate. And if you feel like you're just going to start like when life gets less busy, I mean, I don't know, Tommy, like you approach someone, your small talk, like, oh, Tommy, how's it going? Good, busy. Like that's all we hear. So the mistake is that you just wait for the perfect time so you don't ever get started. You're just trying to do too much. Like for us at Blue Line Fitness, like take it down to the kindergarten level, break it down Barney style, just like what can you stay consistent with? And then lastly, I think it's just like, when I say stay consistent with it, it's like doing something even on your worst days. Because you're going to have days you're not motivated. You're going to have days where you don't feel like it. But if you can at least take action on the days that is inconvenient for you, imagine what you can do on your good days. So, I mean, I'd say those like the top 3.
Yeah, awesome. You had a post a while back about you talked about how an officer may say, I don't want to take that time away from my family, yet that television in the living room that you sit at for 2 to 3 hours a night, that's not only taking time right now away from your family, that's taking longevity away from your family by not getting up and moving. And that was really like a huge thing for me to see that and really put that in perspective. You care to talk about that at all?
For sure. I mean, like people always, that's one of the biggest challenges people will say is I don't have time. And I get where like if you are a parent, you're a cop, you're a husband or a spouse, like you always have something going on. But when I hear of I don't have time, I think you just have to reword it as it's not a priority. And then if it's like, well, I don't want to take the time I have for my family, well, that was like where Tyler was at. Dad of 2 kids like me, SWAT, FTO. So him and his wife were on the call and he said the exact same thing. And then his wife piped up and was like, well, yeah, Tyler, you're here, but you're not really here. Like you're here, but you're lethargic on the couch. You don't even help out with the kids. You're not even helping up around the house. So like if you do this, at least if you go to the gym, if you go work out for 45, 60 minutes and you come back, and you have more energy, you're more present, you can help with the kids, you can help like cook and clean and all that kind of stuff, I will take that trade-off. So I think instead of looking at the quantity time that you're taking away from your family, as you said, most of that quantity time anyway is just lethargic on the couch, watching Netflix or whatever, get the quality time that you want with your family. So that way that you can show up to the way that you want your kids to look up to you. So I think it's just that reframe of quantity for quality.
Awesome. So for patrol work, lots of debates out there in terms of what matters the most: strength, cardio, endurance. What do you think it is that we need the most of?
So if you are just starting out, for me, I think it's more important to standardize something before you optimize. Like, yes, I can give you like a well-rounded strength and conditioning and mobility program, but if you look at it and if it feels like it's too intense, it takes too much time in the gym, 2 hours in the gym, and you're used to doing 0 minutes in the gym, like you're just not going to do it. So like for me, it's better to so like choose something that you would like actually follow through with. If it's lifting weights and you're focusing on the strength piece, if it's the endurance, then do that. Like even just going for like speed walking can be a great start. Now, if you get to a point where you have standardized of exercise routine, so I would say you have consistency for like 2 months, hitting all your like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days a week. Tough. That's a tough one, Tommy. I think it really depends upon where you're at, because one can argue if you're not strong, like think of like if it's Mike Tyson versus like Floyd Mayweather. Sure, Floyd has more stamina than Mike, but if Mike lands a punch, like he's done. So one aspect, like you do need to be strong. Now, if I guess building strength does take more time than to say building endurance. And so there is something to be said now if you are a person to where if you are like strong, but then now you gas out in 30 seconds, so I think to answer your question, that I think it depends upon the individual, like I would argue also like why not both? Like what I mean by both, like you can strength train 3 days a week. You can do some conditioning 3 days a week. If that's too much, like my kettlebells that I do, it's basically you're almost combining strength and conditioning with kettlebells. So like, I guess why not both? So like if I had it, I know that was a lot right there. I think it depends upon the individual. If you want to get the most bang of your buck, doing some kettlebell complexes would be a good start.
So I come to you and say, hey, look, I'm a cop, but I'm going to do what you want me to do, but I only got 30 minutes. That's the maximum amount I can do. What would be a good high impact workout that you would recommend? Kind of dumb it down. I know that there's lots of variables in there. There's a ton of variables, but assume I'm a relatively younger cop that just wants to dedicate those 30 minutes. What's that look like?
Sure. Do you have a specific goal?
No goal. Just I need to get back in shape.
Sure. Okay.
I'm putty in your hands. What do you do?
Yeah. So like obviously for those who are listening, you would definitely want to get clear on your goal, because that would just be like you driving down the interstate and you don't have a destination. You're just gonna keep driving. You don't know if you got progress. But if it's like for 30 minutes, I mean, again, I'm gonna go back to like kettlebell complexes, Tommy, just because like you're not gonna get a whole lot of volume if you're doing like lifting workouts like back squat, deadlift, all that. Like you're not going to get bench press. You're not going to get a lot of volume, a lot of like that bang for your buck in 30 minutes. So now if you're doing kettlebell complexes, I mean, whether it is like doing a kettlebell clean press squat, doing some Turkish get-ups, doing some swings. I can make that a strength workout by like doing heavy weight reps less than 3. Or if you want to make it more conditioning, you just, go lighter weight and then, you're knocking out some more. So like I would definitely, that's why again, I go back to the kettlebells. Like if you're listening and you hate running, kettlebells are for you, because I've had students decrease their 2-mile time by 2 to 5 minutes in 2 months and they did no running, all kettlebells. Okay. Your grip strength, think about all the grappling that you need to do going hands on, kettlebells. You don't want to go to a gym, kettlebells, you can do it at home. You want to be cost effective, kettlebells are going to be cheaper than like dumbbells or a squat rack and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go with kettlebells.
So in terms of us, we wear duty gear, duty belts. I know a lot of things have shifted over the years. I'm kind of that old school guy that likes the traditional uniform with the normal belt, but my folks all wear an outer carrier, and that takes a lot of weight off their hips and lower back. But there's still some things that we're wearing that are causing those problems in our knees, hips, and backs. How do you program fitness for someone who is wearing those things and needs to protect their hips, knees, and back?
Yeah, the reason why your knees, hips, and backs are probably aching, because, you're sitting in a squat. Like, even taking outside the gear, you're sitting in a squad car, you're sitting at a desk, you're sitting at home, and you're just, we're looking at mobility. My mentor told me mobility is about basically the ability to move in space. And if you're not moving in all the different directions that your body is supposed to do, you're going to have aches and pains. Tommy, for like 7-8 years was like, I want to improve my mobility. And I would just be like every person when I'm achy and pain like a tin man, I'd stretch for 2-3 weeks. When my body started feeling better, I would take it off. I invested into a mobility coach because when you have skin in the game, guess what? You have more motivation. And my body feels freaking incredible. And I do it 4 days a week. And he's having me move my body in ways that were, even for me as a personal trainer, I would not have thought about. Because also reducing pain isn't just about stretching. It's also about like strengthening the right work, like your hip flexors. People talk about stretching your hip flexors all the time, but I would argue your hip flexors are probably weak and you actually need to strengthen them so that you also then are feeling better. So I'd say it's less about the duty gear and it's more about, you not moving your body as the way it should. So that can just be movement, walking, exercising, but obviously some stretching as well.
So do you have any non-negotiables in terms of exercises for injury prevention in law enforcement that you always prescribe to someone and do yourself?
So injury prevention. If there's like exercises that I would do on a daily or at least a weekly basis, that's gonna, we'll say, prevent injury, which is your low back pain or also just your own strength and conditioning. Like kettlebell swings are gonna be one of your foundationals because again, like you can increase a lot of the muscles in your posterior chain, which is for running. Also like increase like your own cardiovascular. Before I did this mobility program that I'm on, FMS, functional movement screening, has a couple of stretches called the Bretzel, Bretzel. And doing like the Bretzels and doing like a 90-90 hip stretch, I put that together into like a 10-minute bulletproof hip routine. And I know people who you would use that every single day, your low back and hips would feel much freer. Like one of my students, Dave, canceled his weekly chiropractor appointments just by doing that. But stretching out your hip flexors, so like you could YouTube like couch stretch, that's going to be a good one. Even just hanging from a pull-up bar, like even if you feel like that your weight, would be too much for just free hanging, you could put your feet on like some blocks or something just so that it could support your weight a little bit. And then just hanging from a pull-up bar, those would be just some like good ones as far as like if we're talking about injury prevention, as far as like mobility and stretching. Otherwise, if you're strength training, I don't do my lifts, Tommy, by muscle groups. I do by like movement patterns. I hinge, which is like deadlifting and RDLs. I squat. I do vertical pulls, which would be like pull-ups, chin-ups, horizontal pulls, rows, horizontal presses, bench press, incline press, and then vertical push, like shoulder press. So obviously then for me, like by getting strong in those movement patterns as well as my own core work, I'm not talking like your beach abs and just doing crunches and sit-ups, working the entire core, doing kettlebell carries. Kettlebell carries, I mean, probably should have started with that. Like kettlebell carries is going to be one of your best ways for injury prevention as well for your strengthening of the core to reducing pain.
So for officers that are out there working shifts, and most officers are on shift work, and it's a situation where sometimes they even have to work over. I mean, very often we end up being late getting home no matter what shift we're on. And so that impacts our sleep.
Yeah.
How do you structure someone's training program where their sleep is inconsistent? What is your recommendation?
Sure. So definitely, well, don't be the person where you say I'll just sleep when I'm dead, because if anyone wants to get like a quick basically a quick summary of a book, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, he'll spend half the book scaring you to death of like all the health consequences of sleep deprivation. So I think of 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1 as in like a countdown of hours before you work backwards from when you go to bed. So 3 hours before bed, don't try to just limit what you eat, okay? 2 hours before bed, if you can at least start limiting your screen time. Obviously, if you're a night shifter, that can be tough, but like you could wear like Blu-ray blockers. You could just even put like little red tint, like something that I've had guys put like this like little tint sticker like across their screen so it limits the blue light. But you definitely want to try to limit the blue light, even if it's just an hour before bed. And then an hour before bed, you're just trying to do basically like a wind down. Like obviously if you're so amped up from like work, whether that's going to be journaling, deep breathing, just going for like a little light walk, just something to decompress your nervous system. And then I'd say like watching your alcohol intake and caffeine intake. Alcohol, it takes like 3 to 4 hours to metabolize. Like being a dad now of 2 young ones, I don't drink often, but like even like last month, I would have like just 2 drinks, a legitimate 2 drinks, like 2 hours before bed, and I'd wake up just groggier. Like my sleep score on my watch like was down like by 10 points just from alcohol. Now, if you're drinking way more than that, so yeah, I'd limit the alcohol before bed. And I know caffeine, stay alert, stay alive. I just tell, especially night shifters, like if you need that pick me up, you could grab like black tea, or you can find energy drinks that are just like lowering caffeine, like 50, 60 milligrams. Because again, caffeine can stay in your system for 6 to 8 hours. So those are just a few ideas. Now, if you're listening to this, just pick a couple. Like try that red light like sticker that you can just put on your MDT, limiting the blue screen, just some deep breathing before bed. That's just going to help you with your sleep.
So let's kick a hornet's nest.
Let's do it.
What does fit for duty actually mean to you?
I mean, if you're looking at the definition, like you need to be able to like do the job that asks you to do. So like now how can you quantitative it? I guess for me, I mean, you should have the above average strength, conditioning, mobility as your average person out there. I pride myself, Tommy, like I did a powerlifting meet where I got like 4th place. Now at 190 pounds, I still deadlifted 500 pounds. But so while I wasn't the strongest, I bet I was in the top 10%, and none of those guys could beat me in a 2-mile run. I'll be like in the top 10% of running, but the people who could beat me in running won't be stronger than me. So I think you just got to be well-rounded. I think sometimes I don't find too many people. I mean, unless you are like maybe you and I, when you are like 5, 10, 15 years into your journey. But even then, I'll find guys who are just on one end of the spectrum. They're just straight lifters and their conditioning stinks. And I have some people who are just straight runners and they're not strong. So I think it's just about being above average strength and conditioning than your average person on duty. I guess that would be just a simplistic way of putting it, but just being able to do the job. There's a lot of tasks, obviously, as a cop, but like, I mean, that's why, like, I think if you have a fitness standard, such as like, I think what the Army did with their new fitness test, they did like a good job. They went from like 2 minutes of push-ups to 2 minutes of sit-ups to a 2-mile run. Like, that's all muscular endurance and aerobic endurance. Then they went to like a 3-repetition deadlift. That's absolute strength. You know, they went to a ball throw. They got rid of that, but that was for power. You need power to do it, like a takedown. Okay. Then they went to like core strength, a plank versus sit-ups. Then they had muscle endurance, but then you had like not your 10-second sprint, but not your like 2-mile run. You had like an agility test right there. So your anaerobic endurance, and then your aerobic endurance 2 miles. So like, I think if you would be able to be efficient in all your different areas, such as absolute strength, say sprint speed, your aerobic endurance, like you just need to be well-rounded in everything. Because as you know, like depending upon what you're given, you may need one area, and if you're not focusing on it, you could be in trouble.
So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. I know that when I was on night shift, and I'll bare my soul here and be vulnerable, I love donuts. I haven't had one in a couple years. Love donuts. But it's so easy for cops to grab that gas station food in between calls. Sometimes we're all super busy. What's your advice to those folks that are out there doing the work? How do they keep themselves in that nutritional area that serves them through gas station food, through fast food? What are some of the things that they can do?
So it goes back to, again, like having a fitness goal. Because one, if you don't have a fitness goal, then you just have mindless, non-intentional eating. You know, why not just go have a gas station burrito? Because you can. Like, you know, oh, that just sounds good. You know, why not go have Chick-fil-A or McDonald's? Because you don't have a goal. Me hungry, me eat. And you just eat whatever sounds good to you. So, but now, like, if you have a specific goal, and this just changed for me, like in 2020, you know, I was going post George Floyd. I was a cop in Minnesota. Like, I mean, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole of that, but like, I was kind of in a funk. And when I was going through the motions, I was still working out, but I didn't have a set goal. I was just going. I would eat more at gas station. But then when I had trained for my kettlebell certification in a short amount of time, that included a kettlebell snatch test where it's like, you need to train for this. We know good training sessions in the gym comes from then also good eating. And then it just dominoed effect by having a goal. That's the only thing that changed. Like when that was a catalyst that triggered it. So once you have the fitness goal, then I would say to meal plan. And I say meal plan, not prep on purpose. Like meal prepping can come from meal planning. Like I have a guy right now where he's a gang detective and he doesn't like bringing stuff into a lunchbox, you know, and especially then if he's in a squad like the entire time. Like, okay, well now if you plan on eating out, okay, do you know like what gas station foods that you can eat and that kind of stuff? If I had to break it down to like a simple plate, know a good protein source. If you don't know what a good protein source is, if you look at the label, anything that you can get close to 10 to 1, or I say 10 to 1. So like if it's 100 calories, you move the decimal on the end, 1 in, 10 grams of protein, you know, as an example. Produce, I mean, even at gas stations, right, they can have apples and bananas and baby carrots or whatever. So produce, fruits or veggies. And at least you prioritize those first 2 things, Tommy, and then you could have like those carbs that we all like and stuff. You're going to eat less chips because you fill your stomach up with protein and produce. Also water. If you fill up your stomach with water, you're going to have less crap in it. I think plan whether you're going to cook at home, you're going to eat out. But if I think of your plate like protein, produce, and I trickle in carbs and fats, you're going to at least be off to a good start.
So, Justin, one of the things that kind of drew me to you is that you are not only identifying yourself as a cop and as a fitness coach, you're a dad and a husband. You have established an identity outside of our profession. And a lot of us get so drawn in that this becomes our identity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you build that identity outside the badge, but still take pride in the work that you do?
Well, I mean, I think many of us, like, yes, you do take such pride in being a cop, but I think, like, when I speak with cops and people in the last 5 years, and we're talking about their why they want to lose fit, why they want to get in shape. And are there some to where it's like, yes, I want to be fit for duty. I want to feel like an asset to my agency, not a liability. I was winded on that chase. All that is true. But when we got real, when we started having like real conversations, like not surface level ones, it was more about like for their kids, for their spouse. Because, I mean, I worked 12-hour shifts, so I was a cop 7 out of 14 days. You're a dad, you're a husband every single day, right? So like I was twice more of a dad and a husband than a cop. And so like, how do I maintain that identity? I mean, part of like fitness kind of it just helps, right? Like by me working out and by me having a muscle pump, by me like looking good in the mirror, I'm going to feel more alive. I'm going to feel more confident. Who's going to have that, like who's going to mirror off that energy? Them. Who's going to be the one that's like trying to lift up the 4-kilo kettlebell while I'm lifting? My toddler, right? Like, so if you have kids, bring your freaking kids into the gym, get up before your kids, I mean, so I guess I established identity through the fitness by being present with them. Part of that gym therapy, is going to help you relieve that stress to be with them, and do I sometimes, am I scrolling on my phone a little bit? Sure. But I also just want to make sure I'm very diligent, at least each part and every day. Like I'm tunnel visioning on them. So they know that like, hey, like, Dad's present with you.
So for the cop listening who's tried and failed a dozen times, and we all know those guys, we've been those guys at times. What's the first step they should take to rebuild that momentum, to get their fitness back, to get their health back, and to get their life back on track?
Do whatever you feel like is the easiest thing to do, and then just don't miss a day. If that means going for a walk, go for a walk. And when I say easy, do it for 2 minutes. And people are going to be like, well, what's the effectiveness of the 2-minute walk? Well, usually it's the start that stops us. Folding laundry. I hate folding laundry, Tommy. I will wash it. I will dry it. I will just leave it on a bed. But if I just start it, and I'll set a 2-minute timer, and then when it goes off, I'm like, oh, well, I just started. I might as well keep doing it. So start with whatever's if it's knocking out 50 push-ups, if it's going for a 10-minute walk, because we need to like build up that confidence in us and like, hey, I'm a person who follows through with what I say I'm going to do. Okay. And just like, I mean, I think with the fitness industry out there, there's so many experts. They want to share all their knowledge. They want to differentiate themselves. For me, I feel like a differentiator is just keep it simple, stupid. Like drink a little more water. Water's free. Like drink 64 ounces of water and like wake up before you drink your coffee, fill a pint glass full of water and slam it. Drink more water, get some movement in, whether that's push-ups or walks, and then if you're not a person that's like fruits and veggies and all that stuff, like the first thing on your plate, protein. Hold up your palm, the diameter and thickness of your palm, put 2 servings of like, whether it's chicken or fish or beef, and then put the rest on your plate first. protein, water.
Excellent. So, Coach, wrap it all up with one piece of wisdom for busy cops who want to get back in shape and live a more intentional life.
I think, as we said, start with your why. I think so. Like Simon Sinek, great guy. He's got lots of great books. But he'll say, like, we want to try to figure out, like, what's the best workout plan? What do I do for eating? How am I going to do it? Am I going to do my workouts before work? But start with your why. And how, if people who are watching this, well, Tommy, did you watch the movie Shrek?
I did.
Do you know what ogres are like?
Yeah, based on that movie, sure.
Oh, okay. Ogres are like onions. And because they have layers. And the more layers you go deep, like, I want to get in shape because I want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? Well, because I want to be fit. Well, why do you want to be fit? Well, actually, I want to look better in the mirror. Why do you want to look better in the mirror? Then all of a sudden, you pull enough layers back until you start getting a little teary-eyed. Like, I feel like my son, I get winded with him playing tag at the park. It's embarrassing. I feel like my spouse, like, we had this huge spark when we started dating. Now it feels like there's no energy there. I feel like I became the stereotypical donut eating cop. When you start getting a little teary-eyed, like, which is funny because that's what onions can do, you'll figure out the workout plan. You'll figure out when you're going to do it. But start with your why. And if you are powered by that and you just don't quit, while it may take you longer, you're going to get in shape, you're going to get fit, but you got to keep that why front and center.
Awesome. Coach Justin, thanks for joining us today.
You're
Remind
welcome,
us,
Tommy.
our listeners, where they can find you and the Fit Cop Squad Room.
So we can, put the link in the show notes. But I mean, you can search for me on Facebook and Instagram, and you could just, send me a direct message, Squad Room. I can just send you the link, but as soon as you get it, again, you get some free resources like my Tactical Kiss Nutrition Guide, my Cop Dad Bod Breakthrough course where cops have lost 30 pounds in 4 months. But yeah, find me we can put my handles probably in the show notes as well, but otherwise just go find me, Justin Hess, on Instagram, Facebook, message me if Squad Room. We'll have the link for the school, for the community as well in there, but yeah, that'd be some of the easiest ways.
Well, thanks for joining us again.
Of
To our
course.
listeners and viewers, before you turn this off, I want you to sit with us for just a moment. Your job takes enough from you. It takes your energy, your sleep. It takes your emotional bandwidth. What it doesn't get to take from you is your health and your identity, your life outside of that badge. No one's coming to save your fitness, and no one's going to protect your body. And regardless of your rank, no rank's going to give you your time back. That responsibility is yours. And here's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who change. The people who change, they don't wait for motivation. They decide who they are, and they act in alignment with that decision. So ask yourself, are your daily choices building the life you want after shift, or is it slowly taking it from you? Because strength isn't about being tough. It's about showing up prepared for your job, your family, and yourself. This is Iron and Intention. Do the work, live with purpose, and don't waste the life you're working so hard to protect. We'll see you next time.